few people in this country you could call a godfather of rock, and probably only one. And he's right here beside me, and his name is Bruce Shiels. Bruce, how are you?
I couldn't be better, thanks, Benny. I'm at the top of my game.
Brilliant. The first thing we must ask you, and a lot of people want to know, is where did Bruce come from?
Well, when I was very young and I came in late at night, my father used to sweep the floor with me. And then some people reckon it was because I was playing football, like the sweeper type of thing, and other people reckon because I had a moustache at one time. But I tell you the truth, somebody started calling me that, and that was it then. That was
Of
the
course,
end of it, yeah.
of course, you brought that into Bowes. You played with Bowes.
I was a former Bowls player. I played twice for the B team, but that's good enough in the sense that when you finish up sooner than you should have, people always make it out that you were much better than you actually were.
Yeah.
So if you'd kept going, you would have been great, sort of thing. But I'm always, when I go to Daily Mount, I'm always very happy when they introduce me as a former Bowls player.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're down here in your beautiful house here, the beautiful part of the country in County Meath.
Mm.
And what I'd like to know is, all of us would like to know, is when did you actually start in the music business? Now, this is before Skid Row, of course.
Yeah. Well, when I was working in Aer Lingus as a messenger boy, I would have to deliver letters to all the different, like KLM, and there was Dutch Airlines and Swiss Air and German Air, Lufthansa. And I'd walk around town putting the letters in the letterboxes. But when I went up Grafton Street to Swiss Air, which was up at the very top, you would always pass Cavendish's. And Pat Farrell's uncle was in playing the drums there, and Peggy Dale was playing the piano. And they used to have, they had a guitar and an amp. £18 for the amp, £18 for the guitar. And I'd look at that every so often. And I was hanging out with two great lads, Casso, who unfortunately died Arnold Cassidy in a diving accident a few years ago, and Danny Doddle in Palmerstown Place, when I was playing football for St. Saviour's. And they had all the Shadows records, like we'd be listening to that kind of thing, and I'd be looking at the guitar. So some stage I decided to go in and get the guitar and got my dad to go to guarantor on it. So that would have been about 1962, 1963. So I had a guitar then. It's trying to play the shadow sort of stuff.
Mm.
And I lived on the Fisborough Road. And the very next door to me was a guy called Jimmy Cooper. And he had a band called the Blue Shadows. And 100 yards up the road, Mary Leach was up there. And they were called the Royal Olympics. And across the road, Mick Kinsler had a band called the Team Beats. And when you look out my window, straight up Monk's Place, Tommy Quinn had a band called the Quintets. And 10 minutes down the road was the Air Cards. And 20 minutes up the road was the Mounties, who became the Golden Tones and the Casino. And the clubs I was in, up in Fisborough, Jim Tittle and Tony Bogan from the Miami, they were the Scoutmasters. And so Jimmy playing with. So everywhere in the old days there was only football and music, like sport and music really. But on the Fisborough Road, nothing but music, So that's how I basically got into it. So I got the guitar, knocked on Jimmy's door next door, asked him to tune it for me. That same night, he said that there was a band looking for a guitar player. So I can't play it, I can't even tune it. He said, you don't have to do that. He said, they're called Rose Tynan and the Rangers. He said, so the guy who's playing the accordion, he owns the band, but his foot is in plaster. So wherever the gig is tonight, he'll be behind the curtain playing the accordion. Rose will be out the front singing, and there's another lad there, and he'll be doing more singing like Pat Boone. And then there'll be two new lads starting with you tonight, but they can both play. So when I arrived, Desi Reynolds was on the drums, and he was about 11. He couldn't be more than 12. And this lad that was just after getting out of the Artane that week, he was only 17. He was playing the trombone. Danny Ellis, he went on to become, both Desi Reynolds and Danny Ellison went on to become very well known, not just in Ireland, but all over the world. And that was You know, playing. That was the first band I ever played, and I wasn't playing around.
Wow. But it lured you anyway for the rest
Yeah,
of your life.
Rose kind of just told me to keep winking at the young ones. You
Rose
know,
Tynan.
Rose Tynan, yeah, she was in front of the band doing the yodeling. She was yodeling,
Yeah.
and she was telling me the song she was doing, and she said to me, said, "This is a great song. It's called I've got a love not in my laddie yet." And I thought laddie was a fella's name. Didn't know it was a rope. I said, like, so what does that mean? She said, it's about a rope, you know, like, yeah. So she said, like, I said, I don't do any playing. It doesn't matter. He said, just keep moving and, you know, winking out around the young ones. That's how I started. Like, I haven't changed that much, really.
Tell me, just before we continue on with the iconic Thin Lizzy, I saw you sort of doing a few exercises earlier on. Do you have a few injuries to your body?
I'm into top to bottom, which is very interesting in as much as, you know, as an ex-footballer, you should have a few. But if you're not very careful, you get older, all your old injuries join up together. And you can wind up doing what I done, which is I went into the dark night of the soul. I headed through the shadow of the valley of death, came out through the tunnel of love and saw the light at the end of that, which is where we are now. It's probably a no cover charge gig in Lynott next week. But yeah, let me tell you. Yeah.
Well, you're still looking well on it anyway, Brush, and you just turned 70 recently. Congratulations.
Some people tell me that all the time. I did, but I don't admit it. But you know, we've all tried to kill ourselves a few times, so we're in good shape now. But you know, we're starting out Rose Tynan. If you could start the whole thing, if you could start again, that would be. Well, here we are here now. We spend more time looking back than looking forward. We're looking forward to looking back, sort of.
So tell me now, you went on to form, of course, Skid Row.
Yeah.
Was this your idea? Was it Bridgman's idea? How did that come about?
Well, I went from Rose Tynan to a band called. My best pal knocked on my door. John Kavanagh's his name, and he said. He hadn't met me before, but he was starting a band with Dickie Rock's brother Brian. And would I be interested in joining? I said, yeah, I'll come over and give it a go, you know.
Yeah.
So we went up to John's house, we went in Mile Road. And it was just a coincidence that his house was facing a grocery shop, which belonged to Pat Quigley's there, Willie, which many years later would mean a lot to me. Mm-hmm. But John brought me in and we got together with Brian Ferry and Paul Teeling. And we seemed to go down very well, like fairly quick. You know, we went to Storm right away. Mm-hmm. So we learned a bit from that.
What type of places would you have been playing in then?
We would have played in the Liberty Hall, the CIE Hall, and you know, lots of good gigs. Mm-hmm. And John and myself we stayed to the best of friends. And then another guy called, there was McGann School of Dancing up the road. I forgot to mention that with all the other bands, but up at Dodds Corner. And the lad that lived there, he played the trombone. He asked me, would I come along? And this is a band called The Statesman, who were a trad jazz band. So then I played with them. And then after that, I got a call from a band called, that used to play in the Green Rooster and all places like that, called the Blue Beats. Okay. So I'm playing with them then. So all in all, I just went from kind of one band to the other. And when I got the gig with the Blue Beats, I stopped playing football. They would actually give me money, so no point. You know, I played with balls. I was getting a few balls with the Blue Beats. So from the Blue Beats, then I went to a band in Dunleary called the Uptown Band.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they were a soul band. Yeah. And that's and there was that's right. Desi Reynolds was there again. Then I was at the meeting, Desi, which he always denied that he played for Rose Tynan. I was there, just a little cowboy waistcoat on, you were about that height, but you know, so he was playing there, and Johnny McDermott was on sax and Mojo, and Brenny Manass. And Brenny says, there's a pal of mine selling a bass, and that was Bobby Bella, who went on, one of our best known artists. So I ran up with Bobby Bella's bass, as we called it. And then I gave Bobby Bell the space to fill out a later sort of stage. I'm in the Uptown Band, and Ted Carroll that's where I met Ted. He was managing the Uptown Band. And then Benny reckoned Ted wasn't doing enough, so he got Larry Mooney in.
Yeah.
And Larry was a great lad, so he's managing the band. And the flower pair were starting.
Yeah.
And I was having a discussion with Larry over the price of the daffodils we were throwing at the punters. You know, that wasn't great. How much were they? Like, you could have got them like much cheaper. You know, so that, you know, you're starting to lose the plot at that stage.
Yeah.
So myself and Ted decided to start a band. You know, and I was all right. So out we went. I said, we get Noel. I said, I know Noel because Margaret, my best pal for 50 odd years, was living beside Noel. So every time I went down and say hello to Margaret, Noel would have the window open, playing the drums. So I'd hear him.
Yeah.
But when he was 9 or 10, I used to meet Noel in the Broadstone playground, playing football with him. And he used to play the accordion. Then next time I met him, he was playing the clarinet, and he was playing Stranger on the Shower. Then Noel was playing the drums. So I just said to Ted that, like, I know a drummer, we get Noel. And then Bernard Cheevers, I'd met Bernard Cheevers and Brian Rock and the boys. And so
you were fully committed to bass guitar at this stage, were you?
Yeah. You know, I kind of play a bit of guitar, but I'm playing bass guitar. Bernard, very good guitar player, still is at the time, you know. He could play Roll Over Beethoven, like, which is very important, like. And so we said we'd give that a shot. And it's just strange the way it went. So we needed a vocalist. I was at the meeting, this lad, Dave Romson, who went on to start Stiff Records, and you know, had everybody from Elvis Costello to Nick Lowe, and he's still going, Dave. But Dave used to run Sound City down at the Quay. He was a DJ, and he was also a photographer. He used to be, you know.
Yeah.
Went to Dave, I told him I was looking for a singer, and he told me about Philo. And the Black Eagles said, you should come up and see him. So I got word I'd drop over and see Philo, so I got on the bus, like, and went over to Legland Road and went in to see him. And I was asking him what kind of stuff he liked, and he was talking about Nico and the Velvet Underground and Paul Simon and Emma Rock and all that. So I said, no, we'd be doing Jimi Hendrix, you know, like, we're taking her up a notch. I said, come over for an audition. But in the interim period, I'd met Pat Quigley, who was with the movement and that. But Pat lived in tents in a place, and he was the first man I ever seen with a boy lad with a 15-inch speaker down in the basement. So he said it would be all right for us to rehearse there, which was unbelievable, really. So from my perspective, like, the Irish rock scene actually started in tents in a place. So Philo arrived, and we're down there with Pat Scare playing the movement scare, and Philo sings "Hey Joe." I couldn't believe it. He looked unbelievable, and he's singing "Hey Joe" as well. So that was that. Then Bernard won the Apprentice of the Year in Guinness, so we needed a new guitar player, and Frank Murray, who went on to manage, you know, the Pogues, and Paul Scully, who went on to do the sound for Elvis Costello and the Pogues. They came with Philo. They were only 16 and 17. So when Bernard got the job in Guinness's, Frank and Paul were down in the go-go looking at the creative mind, and they said there was a great young guitar player down there. So we were playing up in Middle Abbey Street in the 72 Club. And I said, well, tell them to come up and I'll talk to them at half time. So they brought Gary up, and we were playing Strawberry Fields Forever, you know. And Gary's very impressed with all this, so I'm talking away to him. Asked him would he be interested. He said he would, but I'd have to go up and talk to his father up in Belfast. So the following week, like, I got on the bus or the train or whatever. I went up, he said, I'll meet you outside Stormont. I didn't know where it was, so I wound up in Stormont and had to talk to his dad, Robert, who was only 36 at the time. And Gary was 15 and a half.
Yeah. So I'm interested to hear now, just going on a little bit further. You've done a stint in the US.
Well,
can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we had the band with Gary anyway, and Phil and Noel and myself. And before we actually got to there, we were kind of we were playing a program called Like Now, an RTE, and Philo was singing Strawberry Fields Forever, I think, and Phyllis Hall threw him up a balloon, and he was tricking around with the balloon, but he was singing badly off key. So when we seen the show, we weren't happy. That was the first time we weren't saying, this is enough. Like, we're, you know. But anyways, so I looked down Philo's throat, and he he had a very bad tonsillitis. So his mother said that Philomena, Phyllis, that she'd take him over to Manchester and get that removed. So away he went. So as soon as he went, we thought we sounded better without him, which is the usual sort of thing. Yeah. There's no limit to our egos when you're a particular. So there we were with the Cream, Jimi Hendrix, Skid Row.
The original Skid Row, not the American Skid Row.
That's right. Yeah, that's a different discussion, which I can get to very easy at any time of the day or night. But
so you arrive in New York at 3
so
hours.
the three of us, we moved very fast. We got a deal in no time, and the next thing you know, we were over in America. And the first place we played was the Fillmore West. No, not necessarily the Whiskey Go Go in Los Angeles. And we came in and seen the poster. Last week was the Beach Boys. Then we were on this week, and then the following week, Johnny Rivers. And we got up on stage and we started playing. And there was a lot of shouting and roaring from the back to play Paddy McGinty's Goat and stuff like that. And we found out that was Rod Stewart and Ron Wood, Jimmy Page.
Having a slag.
And Robert Plant and John Bonham. So once we realised it was them, we kind of gave them as good a bit of stick. So the next thing, Robert Plant is up on the stage. He wants to play the drums, and John Bonham wants to sing out the front.
Obviously, a few drinks have been taken or whatever.
So that gig was bootlegged. You can still buy it on the internet, and there's photographs of John Bonham out the front singing and Robert Plant. So that was our first gig. Next thing, so we got on great with all the lads. John Bonham, we had no money, which is anyway, John Bonham paid for us to stay in that same hotel as them that night, made sure we know where to stay. We were just grooving around. Next thing you know, we were in Fillmore West, San Francisco, playing with Frank Zappa, Boz Scaggs, and Ashley Garner and Dyke. They had a big hit with Two Fat Ladies in the Middle of the Floor. The Resurrection Shuffle, unbelievable. Then next thing you know, we're up in East Town Theatre, Detroit, playing with the Allman Brothers. That was one of our favourite bands.
Yeah.
I think he and the Stooges, we couldn't place him at all. He was jumping into the crowd, and his trousers were cut in the middle, and you could see his red underpants. I thought, this is fairly interesting. And the guy sitting rigid on the drums, just playing like that, wearing sort of the same gear as you see, the English bands 30 years later. The bondage gear, as they used to call it. So I couldn't place them at all. So that was that. So next thing we know, we were trucking up mountain, and we were playing all out. We had a great time, and we couldn't fail. Then we came back, went over again, turned the Rod Stewart in the faces, never turned up in Toronto. We were topping the bill, playing with Beck Bogard and the PC, Professor Longhair in Louisiana. Couldn't fail. Next time. Then Gary left the band. And as the guy said on the top of Karen Tool, it was all downhill after that.
Why did Gary leave? Can you discuss
Well, there's a few different reasons. One, he reckoned that I was, basically trying to tell him how to play, which I wasn't. I was telling him what to play, which is a slightly different thing. And he reckoned, after seeing the Allman Brothers, that he'd rather do it with two guitar players. And plus, it would be it'd be his own band, the Gary Moore band, rather than Skid Row, which was my band with Noel, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So me and Noel were the best of buddies, and Gary is from somewhere else. Even the three of us were, I could see it from his perspective that he'd probably seen myself and Noel as neighbours, and he was sort of. So that's what he wanted to do. But
that must have been a blow to you.
Complete disaster.
And to Noel.
Yeah, that was the end of it, which would make matters worse. Yeah. And we brought great lads in. Paul Chapman, who went on to play with UFO.
Yeah.
And I could tell about guys all day, but the problem was that Gary, Noel and myself, we used to practice like for 8 hours together for months on end, And the telepathy was there. Everything was there. You can hear the live shows from John Peel or wherever we played. And you wouldn't even with great guitar players, we didn't have the arrangements down properly. We used to we had a certain amount down, the rest was ad-libbing. And that's too much for lads to come in and try and do that. So we just got tired. We had no money, no nothing. And then we fell out with the manager. And he reckoned he owned a my guitar and amp, which meant I didn't have no gear.
Who was your manager there, Bruce?
Well, Clifford Davis.
Okay.
He was a great manager. He managed Peter Green, Fleetwood Mac, and Curved Air, and different bands. But it was more our fault than his fault. He had things to do, and we had nothing to do. We spent too much time fluting around. So came home and went on the dole, which was great, seeing we got the tour in the world twice. Next thing I'll give him bass lessons for £1 a time,
You're looking at life from both sides now.
Well, they were straight onto the dole. I hadn't the juice. No money either. Like, he had to sell his drums to come home. And
so Gary left you while you were in Canada or the States?
No, Gary left us. We're living in London, but we couldn't actually never make a living again. Couldn't get any.
Okay.
I started a band with great drummer John Wilson, who was with Rory and Taste, and Eddie Masson or Eddie Kennedy was managing the band, who was Rory's old. But you couldn't compete with the fact that we were at the being Skid Row. No matter what you were doing, people would immediately say that's not as good as the. Yeah. And it wasn't. Like, so you were, you became a victim of your own sort of whatever you had going for you. The fact you hadn't got it going anymore, people could compare you to what you were, and immediately say you weren't as good, and that would be true.
Would you change things if you could go back with the
problem with that sort of,
you look back too much, I know that.
Yeah, Kay Bourne said to me once, like, if you could do it all again, Rush, is there any one thing you wouldn't do? I said, yeah, I wouldn't answer hypothetical questions. but there's lots of things you could have done, you know. And talking to Gary later on, there's lots of things we all could have done.
Yeah.
But same as everything, like with Philo heading prematurely for the promised land and Gary heading for the promised land, like we could all have done that. But all you can do is say that, like, you had some great nights with both of the lads at different times.
Yeah.
And if we were all going, 4-piece now, you could be one of the biggest bands in the world. This is it. But so you come back and you go with the dole and you have bass lessons for £1.
Yeah, you bounce back, because I used to go to a gig of yours, and probably at the time it was the longest residency in Ireland, and you were in the Bag It In for 8 years every Thursday.
We were completely clapped out, and we started there.
Yeah. And
the first week we were there, 16 people paid 10 shillings in, which we got £8. So I done what I said I'd have to do. I'd have to take the bass off and do no playing and jump around a bit like that. So anytime I need to make money, I stop playing, which is kind of ironic, seeing you're supposed to be in the music business. But for any time I want to make a living, I stop playing and I start jumping around.
Yeah.
And this seems to work every time.
Yeah, and it was a big band. I mean, you had some great players with you.
Oh, we did, yeah.
You had 2 drummers at one stage.
That's with Noel and Dave again. You couldn't.
Noel and Dave again.
Nothing like it. No, it was like just like 2 wildebeests with outboard motors on the back. It was just an elephant stampede every night. Yeah. And I didn't have to do anything on the other. And then we Danny Bongos, who was an incredible percussionist at the time.
He was.
So the boys get everything going, like, and I'm just walking around the front, jumping up in the air every so often, trying not to hit my head off the ceiling. But then Jody was playing guitar. Then another time, Pat Farrell's playing guitar. The late John Brady, who's just one of the greatest guys of all time, he's on bass. He looked terrific. The band looked well. You're going well when there's more women than blokes at the gig, because up till then with the 3-piece there was no women at the gig. We were playing sort of like Rory Gallagher, boys music. And even when I played today, that same style, it's still the young punters. They're the only ones who can take the volume. The older lads they can't take it anymore. Need somewhere to sit. And they start to wilt like after 3 numbers. Can't take the volume. Well, we went into the Bag of Inn and the place was full for 8 years. Without a bouncer.
That was amazing. An amazing gig to have.
Yeah.
And brought in some money, which as a musician, it's not easy to come by.
Yeah.
At that time, anyway.
Well,
but great.
Well, it's badly needed, and for any people who are interested in the history of rock and roll in Ireland, it was in the Bag of Inn on Thursday night. I have to admit this, that I'm the person who put the F into Alice.
Yeah.
So I was the first one ever to do that. I haven't got, I haven't got the amount of esteem I should have got for having put that in there.
Of course, we are talking about the song by
the
next door to Alice.
Yeah, and until this day I hear people saying that who the F is Alice.
Yeah.
So that was, I would have started that.
Of course, you played mandolin, electric mandolin.
Yeah. Well,
Also.
I could play the jigs and the reels and Maggie May, which kind of was good enough for. I got 3 years out of that sort of, But
it was a very exciting show. I do remember.
A great show.
You used to, I don't know, you were like the Elastic Man or something. You used to spread your legs.
I was fairly fit then,
Yeah.
And we were the first band to do a dance contest. We had the Macho Metal Strut, and if you thought you couldn't get any more people in, I don't know where they came from. But when you had Davey and Noel and Danny Bongos doing Dance with the Devil, and there was a busman on his night off out the front. Dancing to it. When you got your number, and up you came doing the Macho Metal Strut, and you had to be good. And most people hit the head off the ceiling. They all try to jump at some stage. But the dance competition, that was unbelievable. I thought that was one of the best of all time. That was great.
It was great, and it put bums on seats as well.
Well, we stuffed the place, and then this lad came in one night and he said, I can get you some gigs. That was the only gig we had. So his name was Andy Creighton from Clare Morris. And he said to me, come down on the 8th of December. I have a pub in Clare Morris, and you can audition for me there. I said, you've already heard the band. He said, I should come down anyway. So he said, because everybody in the country goes to Dublin on the 8th of December to do their shopping, and I want you to come down, just play in the pub. I said, all right. So we went down, and he gave us all a bowl of soup and toasted sandwiches, and we played a few numbers for him. So that's great. He says, I want you to start next week. I said, yeah, I didn't know how you could get gigs next week.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yeah, going to be in the Longford Arms next Thursday. Here's what I want you to do. I said, all right. He said, you drive up the side there and you look in and you'll see a lady to the door, like there's the glass panel there. There's a phone. And when the phone rings, she'll pick it up and look out and see you. I said, all right. So we arrived I'm sitting at this spot here and I noticed there's a poster for the memories for that night, and the phone rang at 9 o'clock. She picked it up and looked out and called me over, and she says, I believe the memories at the gym and Dad and Mick, they got food poisoned and they couldn't make it tonight, and you're going to stand in with them. I said, yeah, that's right. So anyway,
this is the first you heard.
So for the first 2 or 3 months, every gig I'd done, the memories were advertised, and I just turned up. So every gig I turned up at was full, because the memories were the biggest thing at the time.
Yeah.
So we started off playing to full houses, and they actually had to pay us the same money they were paying the memories, 50% of the door. Yeah, well, I didn't get that. I still had to give Andy. Andy still only paid me as if we were starting off. He took all his money and everybody else's money, but it was great to get going. So Andy got us going that way, which was the best of all time. So we played instead of the memories. Well, to this day, Andy said he gave them a few bob out that night as well, which I don't know whether it happened or not, makes no difference, but we got going, we all done well out, but we learned our lesson there,
Any, as Paddy Crosby used to say, funny incidents.
Well, everything we done was funny, but what people are still most interested in relation, say, Philo, is the fact that when Margaret and myself got married, and way back on the 11th of January 1969. We'd no money and nowhere to go. So Phil organised his mother, Philomena Phyllis, to bring us over to Wally Grange, Moss side. And Phil had come with us, the three of us would go together. So we go over and we're only there, and Phyllis says that there's a band staying here, the Ivy League, and the bass player has the Hong Kong Blue. She says, I'll get you a gig. So she got me a gig for the 7 nights, twice a week.
Wow.
Twice a night. And we're doing all the tossing and turning, and that's why I'm crying. And Phil Omar's up the front dancing and having a great time. And when we came back, I sacked him. So he was my best pal. He done everything for me when push came to shove, like
after his mother doing this.
After everybody did, after them doing everything, we started, that was that. But the casting about the bag of them was somebody used to put sugar in our tank all the time, the tank in the van.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get going afterwards. We were playing a gig, the Golden Fest in Lynott, which was a half and half gig. Mm-hmm. So we're playing there, and we're coming out of that in the Comer van, and the sugar is in the tank.
Yeah.
But usually Noel would get out. Noel was the only one that could get out under the van with a coat hanger and try and get the sugar out of the exhaust pipe. And after that, we drop her in with Martin, Noel's brother, who lived down beside the ball alley and the courthouse down there, Green Street. So we drove home at 9 miles an hour, and we get to we leave the truck with Martin to fix. So Davy Gaynor comes up like in a panic the next day, says they're all down there, that they're finding a bomb under the van, down at the Green Street ball alley.
I remember this.
And he must be joking me. He says, you better get down there now. So we go down, and there's police everywhere, and all the ladies after being taken out of the local hairdressers, and they're all standing out there with curlers in their hair and all. And I go over and talk to the lad from the army. He has all the gear on, like an astronaut, like ready to get blown up. And he says, we're going to have to blow up the van. And I said, James, you can't do that. We're playing in the Marquee tomorrow night, like in London. I said, there's nothing else you can do. And he looked at me, he says, I'll try and do something. So he had a load of lads down this side, and he's up this side with a rope. I've never seen this before. And whatever way they done it, they were able to pull the van over on its side. And this thing falls out, like the bomb. We're all a good bit away at this stage. And he goes up there, and he puts a detonator on that, and he blows that up. You see all the windows going in, and the lady's headdress, everywhere's going. Anyway, I'm trying to get him going, yeah. So anyway,
you're just worried about the gear.
That's all I was thinking about. But I was talking to all the ladies out with their hairdressers and all. They just tell me, don't know what happened. So they actually got the van back up straight. But the sliding door is round, like they had that got a right hammering. But next day, there we were on the boat, like heading for London, like with a gap in the door about that size, and about 200 copies of the Herald with us on the front saying that bomb go, this one, Then we're in the Marquee that night, and we're reading it on the stage. But that'd be only one night, the weekend.
Yeah.
But when they brought me back first to try and put the new Skid Row together. Before I went on the dole in 73, Ollie Bourne brought me back, and Bill Fuller was putting the money up so they got me to stay in the old shieling,
Yeah.
And Bill Fuller says to me, if you're late coming in, wherever you do, go somewhere else. He talks very slow and very threatening, but I can't do the Kerry accent. So we got back to the old shieling, and I couldn't get in. So I went round the side, and I'm climbing up the side of the drain pipe, and this guy this guy comes up and he points a gun at me from here, and then another guy down here, he points a gun at me. When I came down, I knew the guy that was pointing at the gun at me down here, and he was very well known in radio circles, but at that stage he was Bill Fuller's bodyguard, and the other guys, there was 11 guys from Belfast staying upstairs that were wanted in different places. Okay. So that would be like the Wolf Tones were there every Monday night. It was that type of pub. Anyway,
scary incident.
Yeah, so Bill throws ahead of me and tells me to go to bed. So the next day I came out and I'm standing outside the old shieling, and I went down to the bus shelter to see was a bus coming. But I'd forgotten I left my case behind me, and there was a bomb scare. So when I turned around, everybody was running again, pointing at my case. So I walked back up, and Bill's bodyguard, who became very big in radio stations later on, threw the head with me. His name was Bill as well. And then Mr. Fuller says to me, I want you to go to the Iron. I have a flat over there. You can stay there. So I said, all right. So I got on the bus. Went from the old shieling down and coming around to the Iron opposite Finlay's there. And I see a crowd is everywhere. And the police are there as well. So I went up to the policeman, the guard, and I said, well, guard, I'm supposed to be going into the Iron there. I'm staying there. He said, you can't go in there. There's some lad that had been living in there. He was building bombs and he's at the blowing a hole in the landing. So I said, all right. So, this is the next day. So I go up to the Barry's Hotel and I rang Mr. Fuller. So I said, Mr. Fuller, there's somebody staying in the Iron there. And he's at the blowing a hole in your landing. He was building bombs. And Mr. Fuller says, I know who that is. He said, where are you now? I said, I'm in Barry's Hotel. He said, stay there. I said, all right. So I get up the next morning in Barry's Hotel. And that was so I come down to the breakfast place. There's only two people there. A guy called Eddie Masterson, who became a solicitor not too long after that. Mm-hmm. And Pascal Mooney, they're the only two staying in the hotel. So I'm talking away to them, and Eddie says to me, I'm writing a song about Gary Glitter. He says, if you come up with me, you come up with me now, we'll write this thing together. But he wrote it, it's called Gary Don't Go, and some showman, I think Sean O'Dowd recorded or somebody recorded it. But
Pascal Mooney was the
Pascal went on to become the senator,
wasn't he?
That's right, yeah.
And he was into country music.
That's right. So I'm there anyway. So the next thing I know, I felt Mr. Fuller decided that he wanted the band to do a song that you could dance to. And at this time around, all the petrol stations, there's a Tiger up on the big Tiger, blown up Tiger. So he calls me in, and Dolly McMahon, who's a friend of Bill's, Fuller, and says he wants me to write a song about a tiger. So at this stage now, I'm starting to lose the plot, So I said, no, we have this other song ready to go. He says, well, dance to it, let me see what it's like. So I use a lot of bad language. It's not a great idea. But not too long after, I'm on the dole. That was just kind of, everything to get together. Then Eddie Marshall.
So that song went down the bomb.
Yeah, that was. So there was some other instance, but we would, that all happened just in one weekend.
Yeah.
Until this day, I remember we were going to see the waltz with the band and all those in it. And I still reckon I've done more in a weekend than the band done in 20 years, if I wanted to tell all the other stories. Yeah. But that's just a sample of one weekend in my life. People pointing guns at me, bombs going off, and hanging out in Barry's Hotel. And
Shiels' day off.
That was it. Every weekend something happened that was fairly interesting, and all the great thing about the Bag It In is, you would try things now. Anytime I tried to play, say I bring Eric Bell in and I go on the bass. That never worked. But we bring, so when you brought guys in like Jimmy Gaynor, Jimmy was a great showman. He just terrific altogether. We had Big Joe Stan, best crack of all time. Mm-hmm. Then now and again, we had a young look called, we called him Dmitry O'Leary. It wasn't his name, but we used to give the impression that he was from Russia. And he's on the tambourine to make it look like there was more people on the stage than there actually was. Then, of course, we had the great Brendan Finglas, and we're doing a gig one night over in the west of Ireland. I think it was in Pontoon. There's a lad called Brendan Finglas, and I tell you one thing, he was the most underestimated talent I've ever come across. This man, if he had his own band, if he lived in his own world. But anyway, we're over in Pontoon, and I'm singing I Can't Stop Loving You, Going to Storm, and I called Brendan out to take over. Nobody knew the difference. Nobody even turned around. Little did we know. But we had a lot of great guys in the band, Like a name with Jimmy Slevin there. He's done a great job as well. Timmy, Pollard. Yeah, Jody Pollard. Mm-hmm. Jody's over in Florida. Jody was great. Jody was actually very big with the ladies. He'd be singing like "Killing Me Softly,"
That's right.
and he'd a real nice touch. Jimmy Slevin was great, where the heavier Peggy's leg originally, but great at that sort of stuff. But we'd have, if they want X amount of people on stage, when certain ballrooms did, we'd bring the boys on. Brendan would be up there jumping around the place looking good. So all in all, I would say the alive and kicking days, that's what we call them. They're the days when I didn't play at all. So when I say I was playing the mandolin, I didn't see that as actually playing. I was just playing the mandolin. For me, I'm only playing when I'm playing the bass, if that sort of thing.
I understand.
But I went from there doing that with that type of thing to what we would call our Celtic rock period came next, where I still have two of the biggest Celtic rock hits in the world, not just in Ireland. We have Dirty Old Town, which gets still to this day gets played before every Manchester United home game. They still might play my version of Dirty Old Town. And you can see me up on the Manchester United television doing an interview there with the boys. But what I couldn't understand was I was getting played with the Fields of Athenry in Anfield Road, which was the nemesis. They obviously didn't know it was the same person. So I was the only one that ever got played in Anfield Road with the Fields of Athenry. And I'm getting played the same week in Old Trafford, Dirty Old Town. Same person, nobody seems to know what it is. So in relation to the Fields of Athenry, till this day, it's the most played Celtic rock song anywhere in the world. I went on 3 times at the International Rules in Croke Park, 82,000 people. I go out on my own, back and track, start the Fields of Athenry, do no more, just walk around, 82,000 people all take over. So to make the Fields of Athenry and Dirty Old Town cost me €200. I've done 21 tracks. Danny Bongo's played on both of those, and to this day, Danny didn't know he was playing on them. He didn't know the numbers. So he went in, he gave her a great trash, and out we came. And at the end of it, we 21 numbers. It cost more for the poster than it did for the actual. And the gas thing about it, it sold a lot of CDs, but I didn't sell them. It's the most bootlegged CD in the history of the universe. Everybody on the border has bootlegged that. Not for me to say who they are or what they are, but it's obviously only one side. But it's the most bootlegged CD of all time, the Fields of Athenry.
So this is the 12-bar version. That's
I only played them all. I only played them all as blues.
Yeah.
The Fields of Athenry to me was just the blues.
Yeah.
I'd play it like a blues.
Yeah.
Dirty Old Town. I just play it like a shuffle.
Yeah.
Do them in one go, both of them, and we'd all sing along the chorus for the crack. But it would easily be the most bootlegged, and it's the most ripped off. Everybody had their own version. So, it's the best known Celtic rock number. Till this day, you can hear my version anywhere in the world. When Paddy Riley done it, it was a lament. When I done it, it was a protest.
Yeah.
You never hear me you wouldn't hear my version at the rugby matches, but you hear me at the soccer games and all that. It's just another phase of, that you, this, that. So,
very successful.
Yeah, way. So now, right now, I'm back to playing the 1969, 1970, 71 set. The Skid Row set.
You recently reformed Skid Row, as it were, with you up front, of course, and your son Jude.
That's right.
And Grant Nicholas.
That's right.
On drums.
Yeah, playing the what we would call the Gary Moore.
Yeah.
The Gary Moore set.
Yeah.
And the way we're advertised for that, now I'm happy enough for this. They fill in it, Gary Moore, the band that brought them together, and then I'm next, the man that brought them together. Yeah. So you go along and you let the fans hear the way type of things Gary was playing when he was honing his musical skills. So I'm doing that now, and at the same time there's an American band, Skid Row, Raquel and Snake. They own the name and they own the band. They've sold 20 million records. And every chance I get, I invite them to have a battle of the bands with me. But one thing is certain, before 2016 is out, I can guarantee anybody this, I'll be back in America. Shiels of Skid Row, playing. And there's a misunderstanding with myself and John Bon Jovi and Richie Zambora and Doc McGee. But the misunderstanding is them with me. So basically all I'm looking from all those guys, I'm not looking for any money, is I'm looking for an apology. They use the name without even trying to contact us. But the way the dispute arose was, well, no, the way the MTV was on, and Sebastian Bach, he was the lead vocalist with the American Skid Row. He got fired. So he's on MTV trying to start a super band with Jason Bonham, Johnson, and Ted Nugent. And somebody sends in a question to MTV saying, why did you use the name Skid Row when there was already another Skid Row? And Sebastian said that they gave Gary Moore $35,000 for the name, which wasn't true. But he'd obviously been told this by boys who'd spent the $35,000 and didn't give him any. But anyway, so Gary told me then that, no, what happened was John Bon Jovi rang him. And Gary told John Bon Jovi it was nothing got to do with him. John Bon Jovi should ring me. So John Bon Jovi never rang me. That's why I made that album, John Bon Jovi Never Rang Me.
Oh, yeah.
He still hasn't rang me. Yeah. So the only dispute we have is we're looking for an apology. But if I never get an apology, it doesn't bother me, because the fact that they didn't apologise to me drives me on, motivates me in a particular way that I might not be as motivated.
Yeah.
So consequently, the only way I can let these boys know that I'm still alive and kicking is with this particular set. I'm playing it as well as we are.
Cool. Right. We all know your connection with bowls from the early days. Can you tell us a little bit more about your connection with football?
Well, my brothers and me, like we three brothers, all we did was play football. Like we actually knew nothing else. And two of my brothers are Republic of Ireland youth internationals, Mo and Paul. Mo went on to play in the 17 in the League of Ireland. Paul was 17, playing for Shelburne in the League of Ireland. Then I played for Bows, and they brought me along for the trial. But when I was 13, I was down in Talca Park, and Bunny Fulham was looking after me. And what they were doing was basically illegal. They would give you the bus fare home, which was a bung. You know, you'd get to give that to your mother, and give you a free. He says, when you come to the matches now, Sam Prowl, he was the guy who owned the team. He said, when you come to the football matches, you stay with us training, and you will get a free cup of bottle and a cream cracker at half time. And I will give you the bus fare, home and back, you know. And if you were any use, you'd give that to your mother and walk, you know, which I did. But so when I was 13, like people should have got arrested for it, you know, using me in a particular way. But so we played football. My brother Freddie, he was a really good footballer too. He played football. So football was all we knew. Yeah. And till this day, I still say myself as an ex-footballer who plays a bit of music. And some nights I'm a musician who used to play a bit of football. It depends on the field. Yeah. But I go to Daily Mail now, and I like the idea of being introduced to the crowd as a former Bows player. Yeah. It's good for me. I like that. Imagine. Yeah, I like that. That's nice.
It's a nice one.
Yeah. So little did I know that at some stage, Man United would be playing Dirty Old Town. Liverpool would be playing my version of the Fields of Athenry. Yeah. That in Crow Park I'd be getting played the Fields of Athenry. And if I had a choice, I probably wouldn't be playing either of those. I'd be still playing Skid Row 1969, 1970, 1971. So I'm lucky enough that anything I do seems to work out in the strangest kind of way, and I kind of do well enough out of it.
Yeah, you get lucky, yeah.
Yeah, some people are born lucky, some people are born blessed. I'm lucky I was born blessed.
Yeah. So listen, living in this lovely area here, you have a couple of acres of land out there. Does it, give you any inspiration for I mean, you're very, very much in nature or within nature.
Yeah.
Any inspiration for songs?
No inspiration whatsoever for songs. It's too laid back.
Yeah.
I was better off when I lived in one room, better off when I had a...
When you have the blues.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you up straight, do you have any regrets today?
Yes, I do. I regret that I wasn't nicer to a lot of people. I regret that, I had no problem shafting my best pals. I regret that.
It's a ruthless business.
When you're a young guy, like really and truly, I was that type. At that particular time, there was only one way to the top, and it was as quick as possible. And if I was at the front of the queue, I was happy to be there. And if I had to sort of do something to get there, that mightn't be that good. But as the guy says, I wasn't throwing you under the bus, or I wasn't throwing you overboard. Like, I teach you how to swim, like. And when I let Villa go, I taught him how to swim. Let's put it that way. I taught him how to play. So, well, I have to go this way. You have to go that way. So, but there was other lads along the way that, you know, other people along the way, and so when I was on the dole, there was a lot of people that weren't that unhappy, and they were right. But you're like, you know, here we are now. Like, next time I have somebody mention me, I'll be 80 if I get there. But between this and that, I'd be very happy if I can get to America, which I will, and play the old Skid Row set, get an apology of something, and I'll find something else to do.
That would be nice.
Yeah, look.
Brendan Shiels.
Thank you very much, Vinny.
I'm out on the beach at Hope. The tide is coming in. Got this feeling of being remote. Would I like to begin? Standing there breathing the cool clean air. All is can't well. And the road ends weave in the salty breeze, and ease me into their spell. There's a boundless ocean in constant motion, deep and wide, coming, going, ebbing and flowing. My sister, the moon is its sky. Though I can be on it, I can still look upon it, soaking in the view. And the fishing boats are lying safe at both, and fill old pal, so are you. From up on the hill, my eyes are filled with the beauty down below. Need look no farther than down in the harbor. I remember long ago, young guys with stars in their eyes. I remember it well. And the road ends weave into salty breeze, and these men into their spell. There's a boundless ocean in constant motion, deep and wide, coming, going, ebbing and flowing. Oh, sister, the moon is its sky. Though I can be on it, I can still look upon it, soaking in the view. And the fishing boats are lying safe at cove, and fill old pal, so are you.